The buggy wheels crunched over gravel like a slow drum roll. Evelyn didn't move. May, in contrast, smoothed her skirts and tucked a loose strand behind her ear. Try not to look too eager. The man stepped down, broad-chested, stomach pressed firm against the buttons of a gray vest. His face bore the heavy calm of someone used to owning silence, and the dust didn't dare cling to his polished boots. This was Silas Bodie, cattle king of the southern ridge, and the man May had rejected weeks ago with a laugh. But he wasn't here for her, not exactly. He removed his hat, nodded at Evelyn, and then let his gaze settle on May with recognition. "Miss Hartwell," he said. May stepped forward before Evelyn could speak. "That's me," she lied with a smile too bright. Evelyn blinked, confusion tugging her breath shallow. She opened her mouth, but May's heels slid subtly over hers, a warning. "I appreciate your letter," Silas said. "I was surprised to hear from you after last time." May laughed, high and sweet. "I had a change of heart." The lie hung in the air like smoke from wet firewood. Evelyn said nothing, unsure whether to call it out or watch it burn. Jonah, from the barn, stood quiet in the shadows, rubbing the dust off his hands with a stained rag. His eyes narrowed toward the porch. That night, supper was full of too much talking and none of it true. May gushed about Silas's estate like she'd been there already. Evelyn's food went cold. Jonah didn't come to the table. After Silas left, promising to return the next day with gifts, Evelyn found the letter behind the firewood stack, creased, smudged, and signed in her name. Her name, but May's words. Her stomach twisted in a quiet rage, not sharp but deep. She carried the letter out into the dark, past the barn, and laid it on the fence. Jonah stood nearby, sharpening a broken hoe. The sound of stone on steel stopped when she exhaled. "She forged my name," Evelyn said, barely above a whisper. "Sent him a letter pretending to be me. He said nothing at first. Then, you gonna tell him? I don't know. You gonna let her go in your place?" Evelyn looked up, the stars wheeling overhead like distant witnesses. "That's the thing. I don't know." Jonah nodded, but his jaw set. She could feel the weight of his disapproval, not cruel, just honest. She didn't try to explain herself. Instead, she stayed beside him while he worked, and when he finally went inside, she remained on the fence rail, watching the field like it might offer her an answer. By dawn, the town had already caught wind. Esther greeted her at the general store with a brittle smile. "Didn't think you'd go for a man like Bodie after all. Though I suppose every woman's got her price." Lula added, "Still, you might have done better than a barn ghost." The words slid off Evelyn like sleet. She paid for her coffee beans and left without speaking. Jonah met her on the porch that evening with his pack half full. "Don't want to stir more talk," he said. "You've got enough weight on your shoulders." Evelyn stared at the pack. "You think I care about them?" "I think you care more than you want to." She looked past him toward the barn, the hills, the broken fence post he'd fixed with bare hands and patience. "You think I should stop her?" He said nothing, but he didn't finish packing. The next day, Evelyn rode into town alone. Bodie was already at the saloon, boots on the rail, glass in hand. May sat beside him, cheeks flushed, fingers glittering with the promise of a future she hadn't earned. Evelyn stepped inside like a calm wind before a storm. Bodie looked up. "Miss Hartwell," he greeted. "I'm Evelyn," she said. "The one who didn't write you." May turned, voice sharp. "Evelyn." She forged the letter. Evelyn continued, voice level as a carpenter's eye. "Use my name. Lied to you. Lied to me." Silas's face remained unreadable. "You expect me to believe that?" "I don't expect anything from you," she said. "I came to set things right." Behind her, the room hushed. Conversation slowed. The piano player's fingers hovered. May stood, eyes wide. "You don't get to ruin this." "I didn't ruin anything," Evelyn replied. "You did when you made me small for your own gain." Silas sighed, rising. "Ladies," he said, "perhaps this isn't the place." Evelyn turned to go. She didn't wait to be thanked or forgiven. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting the town in soft bronze. Jonah stood beside her horse, reins already in hand. "I figured you'd show," he said. She swung into the saddle, breath unsteady but clean. "You stayed. I said I would, didn't I?" They rode home in silence. No words, just the sound of hooves and the soft rhythm of trust settling between them. In the days that followed, life returned to its quiet beat. Jonas stayed, fixed things without fanfare, left fresh bread on the porch when he'd bartered with the baker. Evelyn returned the gesture with blackberries in a tin pail. No one in town asked questions, but the whispers softened, replaced by wary respect. She gave him her father's boots one morning. "They'll fit," she said. He held them like an inheritance. "Are you sure?" "I am." Weeks passed. A tree took root near the porch, planted by Jonah without a word. It grew in the shape of something hopeful, watered with silence and long looks. Then one evening, as fireflies lit the field like slow sparks, Evelyn brought out 2 tin cups. "You never asked for anything," she said. He sipped, eyes on the horizon. "Didn't think I had the right." She stepped closer. "Then let me give it." She touched his cheek, and for the first time, he leaned into it like a man unafraid to be held. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. The moment was already complete. The next morning, Evelyn woke to an envelope on her doorstep. Inside it, a deed, signed by Silas Bodie. A note scribbled on the corner. Asterisk for the woman who knew what was hers and didn't let it be taken. Asterisk. The stagecoach creaked to a halt under a sky the color of old parchment, sun burning low behind dust-whipped clouds. Jonah Callahan stepped down, boot soles splitting with every move, hat in hand, and nothing but silence to his name. The wind tugged at his coat, revealing patches sewn with a clumsy needle and weary patience. He looked like a man who had been traveling too long with nothing left to chase but hope he didn't believe in. No one greeted him. No one needed to. From a second-story window of the Hartwell ranch house, Evelyn watched him stand alone beside the wooden sign etched with her father's name. Her tea had long gone cold, but she hadn't noticed. The man she had invited here, out of impulse or loneliness, she hadn't yet decided, was not the one she imagined. She had pictured someone with a strong jaw, a clean coat, perhaps boots unbitten by time. But what stood in the yard was a man stitched together by hardship, worn thinner than his coat. And yet, something in the way he carried his silence made her stay at the window longer than she meant to. Below, May was already pushing open the front door, all perfume and posture, her curls perfect, her voice sharp with surprise. "Is that him?" she said aloud, not bothering to whisper. Jonah looked up, tipping his hat as instinct, though there was no welcome in her stare. She took one glance at the dirt on his trousers and the hunger beneath his cheekbones, and turned away, disgusted. "You must be joking." Evelyn stood then, quiet as the shifting shadows on the wall. She moved through the house like she was drifting through water, past the sofa where her sister collapsed in dramatics, past the china that hadn't been touched since her father's funeral, out onto the porch where the dust had settled in a long sigh. He turned when she stepped out. "You must be Miss Hartwell," he said, voice rough with dust and swallowed pride. She nodded once. "I am. I understand if there's been a mistake." Evelyn looked at him, really looked, the scar beneath his chin, the way he held his hat with both hands like it was the last thing he owned. He had the eyes of a man who had known too many doorways and too few homes. And behind that, a silence that spoke more than any apology could. "No mistake," she said. "You're welcome here." He blinked, as if the words didn't quite fit the world he came from. That night, Jonah slept in the barn. He didn't ask for a room, and Evelyn didn't offer one. It wasn't out of cruelty, but out of something quieter, mutual uncertainty. He laid his bedroll down beside the horses and kept his boots on, as if afraid he might have to leave quickly. In the main house, Evelyn sat by the fire, knitting nothing in particular, listening to the wind scrape against the glass like an old dog at the door. The next morning, Evelyn found the water trough scrubbed clean and the barn swept. No word, no note, just the scent of cedar shavings and the neatness of care. She said nothing, but that night she left a tin of black coffee on the fence post beside the barn door. The next morning it was gone. At Sunday service, the town made its judgments with glances and whispers. Miss Lula clutched her Bible tight enough to wrinkle the leather. "Poor thing," she murmured, married herself a scarecrow. Esther, the Reverend's wife, sniffed, or worse, a vagrant. Evelyn didn't respond. Instead, she looped her arm through Jonah's as they stepped inside the chapel. The gesture silenced the pews. Jonah's shoulders went rigid and used to touch in public, but he didn't pull away. He kept his eyes low through the sermon, and Evelyn stared straight ahead. The days that followed unfolded in a rhythm unspoken. He fixed the hinges on the henhouse without being asked. She left a warm biscuit on the rail each morning. He worked from dawn until his shirt clung to his back. She watched from the kitchen window, quietly admiring the way he moved with precision, never wasting effort. He was a man who'd learned that every nail cost sweat. One evening, they worked the fence line together, the sky bruising purple behind them. The lantern flickered out, leaving them in twilight. "Match," she asked. He passed it, their fingers brushing. Neither pulled away. Evelyn lit the flame, and it threw shadows across his face, carving every tired year into his skin. "Why'd you answer the letter?" she asked softly. He paused, thought maybe someone'd see past what I'd become. Her throat tightened. "I already did." He turned his head toward her, slow as turning pages. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the dusk held its breath. There was no kiss, just silence, thick and full of everything that hadn't yet been said. Later, alone in her room, Evelyn stared at the ceiling, heart a quiet thud in her chest. She thought of Jonah's hands, calloused, careful, the way they steadied the wire without flinching. She remembered how he stood beside her at church like he belonged there, even though everyone said he didn't. May laughed when she heard. "You're serious about keeping him?" she scoffed. "He's got nothing." "He's got enough," Evelyn replied, and left the room before she could explain it, to May or to herself. That night, a horseshoe appeared above her doorframe, freshly nailed, polished to a dull gleam. She stared at it in the moonlight, wondering if it was meant as protection or gratitude. Maybe both. She touched it lightly, fingers trailing the iron curve. And then she heard it, hooves distant but steady, pulling a buggy up the long dirt path. One horse, expensive tack, not local. She stepped onto the porch just as the buggy rolled into view. Inside it, a man sat stiff and expectant, gray suit too fine for Dustvale's grit, a heavy gold ring flashing on one hand. Her stomach dropped as May stepped out the front door behind her. "Oh," May whispered, eyes wide. He actually came,